have that articulation. They were a bit slower and a bit clunkier as they would get onto the corners. Now, as the athlete is finishing this run, they're going to pop into the finish straight, and they're going to pull the brakes, which is like a comb-like metal structure, which the brakeman is going to pull on to stop the sled.
Yeah, kind of a little bit like a big garden rake with big prongs that you dig in. That is the only time you're allowed to brake. You're not allowed to brake on the track because it digs up the surface and will ruin it for others. And if your brakes do hit the ice, it's instant disqualification. Well, they can see the old scoreboard used to illuminate as the sled went down the track when this track was opened back in 1986. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked for a number of years. There's several hundred light bulbs and lots of very ancient wiring in there that needs renewing, but boy, it would be great to see that working again. Well, last week we were here in Altenberg as well, and again on a German track in good conditions. You always expect the Germans to do well here.
Definitely. The Germans have such a rich history in bobsled, and they have such great knowledge of this track. Coached by René Spies, one of the greats in the sport as well.
Lauren Alter took her second bronze medal on this track. In the silver medal position, our points leader, Kim Kilicki, with Leonie Fiebig back behind her.
Again, just showing that German dominance, having a great run down the track, beautiful conditions, stuck in her head at the finish line.
Kilicki and Fiebig, the winners in Park City before Christmas, but at a track at which she excelled, where she holds the track record, Kaylee Humphries with Keisha Love, they were Keisha Love, they were our front runners.
And Kaylee is a phenomenal pilot here. She's wildly successful. Big fan of this tricky track.
Yep, she has 7 wins here in women's bobsleigh, plus 2 more in monobob. And as we head into the World Championships, worth reminding ourselves that Kaylee Humphries is the world as well as Olympic monobob champion. And of course, a 2-time Olympic champion herself as well in women's bobsleigh. So she is always going to be among the favourites. Well, let's take a look at what happened in the first of our 2 heats. Altenberg is a tough track, and in conditions like today, where there was freezing fog as well, hindering the athlete's visibility, it can bite back.
Definitely, and unfortunately for Maria Fontenay, just struggled to get that entrance into Kreisel, struggled to get that control of the sled in that big corner. I think it just got a little bit lost as she headed for the exit.
Yeah, got very high, a 4th pressure pushing her back up when she was trying to bring it down onto the straight that follows the Kreisel. Actually, she hit the woodwork, she hit the roof of the exit of the corner, which I don't think I've seen before. Both girls are out of the sled, they are okay. I did say it'd be very unlikely if they slid, they will not go in the second heat. So into our top 3. Kim Kilicki and Annabelle Gallander, the winners of the opening race in Whistler. They lie in a bronze medal position, but neither of our top 2 Germans actually had even remotely clean runs.
Definitely not, and there's a close battle for that 3rd spot for that bronze medal, so we could see a bit of movement between those athletes as they fight for not just World Cup but European Champs medals.
1900s behind the leader is Lauren Alter with Nella Scooter behind. Again, they have been winners together in Winterberg a couple of weeks ago. But again, pretty ugly looking drive, I'm afraid.
Yeah, similar to her teammate, she definitely has lots of areas to clean up, so she could fight even Kaylee for that top spot.
Well, she had a poor first run by her standards in mono yesterday and a much better second one. And that got her up to the silver medal position. So Kaylee needs more speed, because if the Germans tidy up their act, they could both overhaul her in this second and deciding run.
Definitely. Kaylee had a very nice top part of the track, a little bit of skidding in the straightaway there, and a bit of trouble at the bottom, but not nearly the troubles that we saw with those Germans.
We're talking with Christian Reich, who is here for Swiss TV, about goggles that Kaylee uses versus visor. He said actually in these conditions a visor is probably better because it's rounded. Some of the airflow goes around, so it will take a little longer to frost up than the pretty flat front of the goggles. So Kaylee had visibility problems as well. The good news is that it has warmed up a little bit. The snow on the roads is starting to melt, and that means we're less likely to have that freezing fog that we did in the first heat. So hopefully visibility should be good. Lisa Buchwitz did not start the first heat after crashing in the monobob yesterday, and and Martina Fontenev will not start the second heat. So our field is down to 12 competitive sleds. And understandably, Martina focusing on a home World Championships in St. Moritz, not particularly feeling the need to put her neck on the line a second time here for not very much reward in Altenberg. Well, there is the woman, and behind her brake woman, Keisha, who they are all chasing down. And Kaylee, I talked to her yesterday after she won the Monobob. I said, you know, what is it about this track? She said, I don't know, really. It's just something here that really suits my driving style. It just works with how I love to drive a sled. And, you know, she learned in Calgary, which is a glider's track, but she responds so well to this technical driving track. It's a very different, you know, ball game, but she loves it.
Definitely. I mean, there are similarities to that Calgary track with having a big Kreisel, but it's not the same pressures.
Yeah.
But sometimes a track just clicks with an athlete, and you can see that here for Kaylee.
And you think about where she won her first Olympic gold in Whistler, you know, there's another track with enormous jeopardy. I mean, risk-reward ratio is very high there. It's very high here as well. So maybe it's just something about that living on the knife edge challenge that really gets the best out of her.
Definitely, and just like having the confidence to be able to let the sled run, you know, on a tricky track like this, and she has that experience to be able to, yeah, let the track go.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, she's got the experience, the knowledge, and the ability as well. To let it fly, you've got to have the reflexes and the knowledge to know when it's just getting away from you a little and rein it in. Well, here you can see our athletes doing their warm-up drills. Ah, right. So we know who's buying the kebabs tonight on the way out of town, don't we? It's Bianca Reeby, boys and girls. She'll be paying tonight. There's down by the station in Altenberg, there is a kebab joint that everybody knows. It's just about the only place that's open beyond 7 p.m. in town. So it's very popular with the athletes. And for British viewers, it's not the same as a kebab fan after a night out. It's actually proper food. It's very good.
No, it is good. It is actually really good.
We celebrated our Finnish cameraman Ilko's birthday there last night because it is his favourite place in town. In fact, it might even be his favourite place on tour. Let's whisper it, but there you go.
It says a lot.
It tells you everything you need to know about Ilko, apart from the fact that he's now 84 years old or something approaching that. Anyway, let's get our action underway. First sled at the top of the track is the USA's Nicole Vogt. Race 6 of the BMW IBSF Women's Bobsleigh World Cup here in snowy Altenberg. Nicole didn't race here last week. It's her first time ever at the track. Macy Tarleton from Georgia joins her on the back of the sled. Macy's second World Cup start. Third, I beg your pardon.
A little bit quicker on the start there. She had a 6:23 in the first run and now just put a 6:18. It's always awesome as an athlete if you can improve on the start for the second heat.
Well, they celebrated their first run success, i.e. getting down in one piece, like they just won Olympic gold. So let's hope they get down in one piece here as well. Visibility is a little better. Doesn't make the track any easier, but it makes the driver's view a little better.
Definitely, and it is such a tricky track, and not having slid here last week, she's just, like you said, just wanting to get down.
Yep. Don't injure yourself before the World Champs. Nice exit out of the Kreisel. It's not going to be fast, but it is a nicely controlled run, and that's what she needed to get that confidence. No point in breaking your confidence, your brakeman, your sled, or anything else. Altenberg's got enough challenges if you return in years to come for you to master. 59.26 compared to 59.35, so she finds a little bit more speed. And again, it's that familiarity. 6 months in training in this and the Monobob together. So splitting between the two, and then 2 runs in competition. Nicely done, Nicole Vogt.
Again, happy with that run. Big hugs, big cheering. Yeah, I feel that when you have a run.
Well, you know, this is a track full of challenges, and she did not go trimmed for speed. She went trimmed for survival, and 100% guarantee that is the best choice here, first time out.
Definitely, and sometimes just having that grippier setup, then you can gain the confidence and then dial it back as you come here year after year.
Well, the other thing is, if you've got a little more control, you hit fewer things, and that takes a bit less speed out of you than if you're on, quote, fat, fast runners and hit more stuff on the way down.
Definitely.
Well, they're done and down, and they go to the leader's box. So next up is Victoria Chenanska with Lucia Mokrosova behind her. Victoria from Slovakia, Youth Olympic Games silver medalist in St. Moritz 2 years ago. In fact, it'll be nearly 2 years to the day by the time she races in the World Championships. And she will race in the two-seat sled and in the monobob as well.
It's really awesome to see these younger athletes coming into bobsled, just to be able to continue growing the sport from some smaller nations as well.
Yeah, I mean, Katie Humphries, 37 years of age, she is relishing all the new athletes, the likes of Kilicki and Nolter in their mid-20s, and then you've got kids here that are barely out of their teens, you know, only months out of their teens who are coming in as well. So there's a third generation still competing in the same changing room.
Which is so awesome to just see how long you can have a career in the sport as well.
6:18, same start as Nicole Vogt, so they maintained their first heat advantage. Now stepping out from 3700s up to 6300s, 8300s. Big skid down towards the bottom of the track, but a really nice looking run from Victoria Chenanska. Skidding again.
Bit looser setup, I think, for Victoria, but she's throwing it down.
Wow, she is letting it fly. 58.55 compared to 58.98. So a 43 hundredths difference. That's very good indeed. And again, it's that run volume. She was not here last week. She was in the Junior World Championships. So she was back in Winterberg. She stayed there after the World Cup race and only came here this week. So again, her Altenberg knowledge, very limited.
As the pilot jumps into the sled here, not only are they getting into their little seat, hands on the D-rings, they also pop down that push bar. So when her hands pop down, she pushes a little trigger, and the push bar will go down to get the sled all ready for racing.
Well, this will represent a World Cup personal best for her. She was 14th in the race in Winterberg. She will be no worse than 11th place here. And that's how athletes judge their progress. Personal bests all the time. Be better today than you were yesterday. That's what it's all about, Liz.
Definitely.
So from our YOG silver medalist to our Youth Olympic Games gold medalist, Georgeta Popescu, and the Romanian driver in her second World Cup start. Again, like Victoria Chenanska, made her World Cup debut in Winterberg and then stayed for last week's Junior Worlds. She is the under-23 Junior World Champion. In bobsleigh, you can go to the Junior Worlds until the year when you're 26. So she could still be, like Lara Nolter did, going back in a few years' time as a senior athlete.
A little bit extra loopy there on the first part of 4.
400s in hand over Victoria Chenanska, so that Youth Olympic rivalry is still alive, but Georgeta not having the run at the top of the track that Victoria did, and if you lose speed early on, Elizabeth, it's really hard to get it back.
It's really difficult, especially in key corners like 4 and Kreisel. If you do too much or too little, you just lose so much speed, and there's not that much of a decline on this track, so it's really hard to get it back.
Yeah. If you haven't got speed by corner 4, you're not getting it anywhere. Down at the bottom, second fastest run, 59.05. So Georgeta slits into second place. And again, for her, that will be a PB because she was 16th in Winterberg and she will be no worse than 11th. And Victoria Chenanska will record her first top 10 finish. What also is interesting here is that the Romanians have slipped behind Slovakia in the European Championship stakes as well.
It's a big race for these Europeans. European Championships does mean a lot. And although all the Europeans will finish top 6 in this race, she did slip to that 6th spot. Bit of a bump as she enters into corner 5, which makes that top labyrinth really tricky. Just gets so much height on the exit.
Well, down and done, and they can now move on to the happy, quiet place that is St. Moritz. Not the town itself, but definitely the bobsleigh track. Next up, Cynthia Appia with Neve Hockey behind her. This is the first time that Neve has break for Cynthia. Cynthia crashed out of last weekend's race, 5th in the Monobob yesterday. She had Leah Walkenden with her regular two-woman break woman behind her last week. And Neve was with Bianca Reeby, who she started her World Cup career with in Whistler at the beginning of the season. 5:79, 5:76 in the first heat, so another big start. The start record is a 5:54. Start and track records go back to 2018's race.
And Cynthia is so strong on the start. She came as a brakeman and then swapped into the pilot seat really not too long ago.
And that's absolutely the way that women's bobsleigh, and especially now with the emphasis on monobob, is going. More and more powerful push athletes learning to drive. That's driving the sport forward.
Got to bring it back here. Oh, a bit of a flop, but manages it.
Yeah, rattled her way down the straightaway, but she got safely out of Kreisel. And then
she's got a big advantage on the athlete in front of her, even with this messy run.
Over the brow, she is chasing Wai Mingming of China. And across the line, 58.11, and that is an improvement on her first heat of 1900. So, again, a little better. Didn't quite get the same start, but she drove a little tidier this time. And again, crashed out last week, just delighted to get it down without parking it. And that's, again, rebuilding the confidence after last weekend, heading into the Worlds, absolutely crucial.
Certainly, and I think she's going to be happy to see the tail end of Altenberg heading to St. Moritz. In Kreisel, she does take a very wavy line. You can see her head pointing to the right, so she's spotting her exit, so she can see exactly where she wants to take the sled off. Bit of a flop, bit of a skid, but the runners are down, shiny sides down, heading into corner 11.
Yeah, any run where you don't use your helmet is a good run here, isn't it?
Yes.
So, our leaders, Cynthia Appia and Neve Hockey, with 8 to go. They had a 0.05 of a second deficit to this sled, China's Wai Mingming and Wang Yu. It is the Lunar New Year, so Kong Hoi Fat Choi to all of our Chinese fans, viewers, and athletes and coaches. Here's the Chinese New Year. We begin the Year of the Rabbit. If that's auspicious for you, good news. So 500's up. They started 5.84 in the first heat, 5.85, so their lead disappears as they sit down, but they had good velocity and immediately come right back into the green.
Little bit of bumps up at the top, but really nice entry into 5 there.
Top 8 finish is her best result. She was in 8th place in the first heat, so she's on an Altenberg PB at the moment. Drops a fraction behind and gets tapped away going into the Kreisel, but best speed.
A little bit flatter than Cynthia was through there, and a bit of a tap as she enters corner 11.
Gap's
Camera
gone
doesn't
out.
catch it.
Well,
You can hear it.
Out to 500s. If she's clean here, she'll get it back. Yeah, I don't think so. Not sure she's got enough speed. It is going to be Appia who hangs on in the leader's box. Neve Hockey on the left, Cynthia Appia on the right. And a 58.41. She had a 58.25 in the first heat, Wai Mingming, and even that wouldn't have been enough to stay in front of Cynthia. But she couldn't match her first heat performance. She looked pretty clean up top to corner 4, but it was a bit messier than her first run below there.
She had a little bit of a wonky entrance as she entered Kreisel, perhaps flattened it out just a little bit too much. Just trying to spot that exit as she comes out. Bit of a flop, and she will tap just on the sliders right as they head into corner 11. And then a big flop as she comes off of 14 into that uphill section. Obviously, you don't want to skid anywhere, but especially not uphill.
Yeah, she got pinged away by the expansion joint, which made it even worse as well. Those little sort of bulges in the ice wall can really do a lot of damage to your run, whether you're in a bobsled or a skeleton. Well, there's the leaders. Appia on the right, Hockey on the left of our picture on their right. They're in Anton deck mode. Next up, their teammates. So we will have a Canadian leader at the end of this. This is Bianca Reeby. She's got Erica Voss behind her for the first time this season. 586, that's a good getaway.
It is, and she's a relatively new pilot, but she came out and won that Monobob race in Whistler.
Yeah. Well, everybody started the post-Olympic season in her backyard, and boy, did she take advantage of that. She had a really good run in the women's bob as well. But here in Europe, yeah, low on knowledge and experience, but she has coped really well with this track. Again, nice control, not the biggest speed, big first pressure, big last pressure, she's gone. Now, will she come back up in 14? It's possible.
No, I don't think so.
No. Unfortunately, that 7th place run has gone. And the entrance to Kreisel can be so devastating to your control of the sled. She will cross the line. They will get registered as a finisher. And actually, bizarrely, it will be no worse than 12th. But it will feel a lot worse than 12th.
No, totally. And she had a really good exit out of 9 into Kreisel. Good first pressure. And just got a little bit away from her in that second and third.
7th last week, and she was in 7th after the first of our 2 heats. But unfortunately, she will be classified as a finisher because they cross the line together in the sled and stop the clocks. So she gets the time. It will be a 12th place finish. You think, why aren't they guys stopping the sled? Well, because it's a lot of weight and you can do a lot of injury to yourself if you try and do so. Unfortunately, here in Altenberg, you just have to wait it out in the sled, which is about as much fun as you can imagine. Well,
Erica's popped out.
Yeah, she got out as soon as it came to a halt, and Bianca will roll out as well.
Just an okay first pressure here, nothing that I would be like too surprised about.
Way high there.
Yeah, and the top of Kreisel kind of barrels over, so it's going to push that athlete down even more. And now she's rising as the corner finishes.
Unfortunately, with that big second pressure, she went high in the third, and she really hauled it down. She thought she was in danger of just staying on too long in the end.
Yeah.
She brought it down too quickly and came off a little too early. And, you know, it's the difference of a 1/10 of a second where you steer maybe that makes that difference. And yeah, really tough call when you're so inexperienced on this track. She knew she was in trouble, she just wasn't quite sure how to get out of it.
Definitely. Both athletes are standing, walking around there.
Well, there's Bianca on the right of your picture, and there is her brake woman, Erica. So there'll be a 5-minute track hold while they manhandle the sled out. Then the scabbards that are waiting on the finish deck will have to come down, and the sled can then be put on the truck. And Bianca going, damn it.
Darn it.
Yeah, you know,
exactly.
she had a good run last week, her first week on the track, and then this week, you know, it's racing. They're hanging it out there, Liz. They're pushing right on the ragged edge of what they know. It's not about being safe. It's about trying to be fast. It's about a top 6. It's about moving up. And yeah, you've done that as well as everybody else. You put the fear behind you and push on through it.
Definitely, and it is protocol for the athletes to get checked by the medical, so this isn't odd to be seeing the medical truck at the bottom, for them to be hopping in. Just make sure everything's fine and dandy.
Well, nobody likes to see the crashes, least of all the other athletes, because, Lord, they know what that feels like, but it is part of the sport. It does happen. It's like any kind of racing, you know, whether it's cars, horses, bobsleds, skis, whatever. People crash. It's because...
Exactly, and like you said, you're putting it all out there, and sometimes it's just a little bit too much.
Yeah, and the difference is, you know, if fear controls you, which it would do me, then you will never be fast. And you have to push beyond your limits. You have to push beyond the boundaries of what seems sensible, because that's where the speed is, in that little never world between comfort and disaster. That's where the speed lies.
Definitely, and every athlete needs to find that, and it's only Ribby's maybe first or second trip here, so she's got lots of...
I think, yeah.
So she's got lots of time to figure that out.
Yep.
It's a bummer it's her last run here because I've had that happen before. It's like, just want to have one last go to rewrite it.
And I'm sure she wasn't even thinking, one to go and then we're off to St. Moritz, because she doesn't know St. Moritz, so she doesn't know.
Yep.
I mean, that's going to be great, isn't it? She does not know what it's going to feel like to slide that track. Can you imagine?
Magical.
I mean, what is it like when you take your first run down there, having been used all your career to the rattle of concrete channels? What's it like when the mountain does not vibrate under you?
I thought it was so cool because you could hear the announcer like almost near to horseshoe.
There's just a tiny little patter of the sled, of the runners, and just wind noise. And yeah, you can hear the track announcer halfway down the track.
Yeah, in the forest. It's really magical. I don't know.
It is, isn't it? It is. And actually, you know, this place is a little bit like that because you are in the forest. And I think particularly Cortina, I always felt, you know, the first bit there, you were at ground level. Cortina is like, you know what the old Lake Placid is. The old track at Cortina, the early part of it was sunk into the ground because they didn't have refrigeration except on the bottom. So, you know, your shoulders were at ground level in a bobsled. And there were trees whipping by. It was, and then you got Belvedere and Bandion and Antela and Cristallo, which is basically 4 horseshoes in a row. And then it became a different place. Enough of that. Here's Ying Jing of China with Wang Jian behind her. Again, swapping around the brake women and driver combinations in the Chinese sleds, looking for the best combo.
Yeah, so every team isn't set on which brakeman they need to go with the pilots. So sometimes you're trying to find that best combination. Who is the best weight-wise, pushing-wise, all of that together.
That was hard onto 4. The sled was up in the air there. So she's got a
tap there too.
Yeah, she's got a slender advantage. That's going to be down into the red by the next clock, unless she's doing really well. Good exit out of 9, so she just has single digits. Not quite as quick as Cynthia Appia.
Smooth exit of Kreisel there.
Now she has the best speed. And Ying Qing could be taking the lead here from Cynthia Appia. Cleaner down at the bottom. She will race to the line. Ying Qing of China. First time here, and she will post a top 6 finish. That is a really good result for Ying.
A little bit sloppy at the top of the track, but she had one of the nicest out of 9, certainly the nicest out of 14 that we've seen.
How did she survive such an ugly 3 to 4? She got onto 4, it really bumped. And maybe all of them are, and I just only have noticed it now, but it just really felt uncomfortable there.
That was a bigger bump than we've seen the other athletes take, but I think sometimes if you've done it all in training, then you know what to do in race day, even if you take the same bump. Athletes loading into the sled there. It is a bit of a marathon. Here's that big bump you were talking about.
Look at that rear runner. Boom, up in the air. I mean, that's a big... She hauled it off 3. Because that's not a place you want to crash.
No, that's a long way down.
That's a long, ugly way down. Ying Qing of China, the leader. Top 6 finish. It will be her first World Cup top 6 finish. No, I beg your pardon, her 3rd World Cup top 6 finish. If she does not move up. And nothing is guaranteed here. Andrea Greco and Teodora Vlad, they were the European silver medalists 2 years ago in Sigulda in Latvia. She was the European silver medalist in Monobob yesterday. She's looking for another European medal here for Romania. 5th place after the first of our 2 heats. And her advantage only 900ths over Ying Qing, so this is going to be tight.
But she's also only 1800ths away from the podium as well.
Yeah. She's in a position where she could really benefit from being able to see where she goes, and it will be better in the 2nd heat.
Took a little bit of a bump too, but not as much as the Chinese athlete.
Yeah. Gets it off 5 safely.
Ooh.
700ths out. Okay. She had 9 from the 1st heat, so she's living on her 1st heat advantage. Tidies it up, little runner check, but it's hurt the speed into Kreisel. She needs to really fire it off here cleanly, and she does.
A little bit of skidding that we've seen happening, but it could just be that looser setup. Really nice entry into 13.
Second best speed, super run over the brow into 15. Here we go. This is where she goes from 700s up to about 1500s up at the line. No! Wow, that shows how quick the Chinese sled was at the bottom, but what she got in front of her, she has got 1, 2, 3 more European athletes. So it is not yet a European medal for Andrea Grecu, but it is a top 5 finish in Altenberg. And the celebration there from the coaches, yeah, no, that's a PB, and equaling a PB. She has had a 5th place finish here before.
And they've really, like, it says a lot about this Romanian program. They've been around for a lot of years.
Yep.
And she's got a shot for that podium now at the European Champs.
This is her 39th World Cup as a driver, her 53rd in total, because she started out as a brake woman and was driving and braking at the same time in a number of different races. So there she is, Theodora on the left-hand side. They were the silver medalists 2 years ago. Let's see what fate brings them. Well, what fate has brought Melly Hassler is the return of Nadia Pasternak, the #1 Swiss brake woman, back behind Mel. Melly is suffering with a really vile cold at the moment, so the last thing she wants to do is A, sprint, pushing a heavy weight, or B, focus.
Totally.
5:75. There's no duvet days, I'm afraid, when you're feeling ill as a winter sportswoman. You just got to get on with it.
Yep, if it's race day, you give her.
Yep. Nice smooth lines early on. Really great Melly Hassler's driving skills. The Swiss sleds are always quick. She and Nicole Vogt, very competitive. Just that little runner check down the straightaway. Best speed of all. Here we go.
Really nice.
Yep, huge advantage over Grecu. And she was only 900 out of the medals. This is a very big shout for a World Cup medal here in Altenberg for Melanie Hassler.
Really good run overall.
Didn't race here last week. She was back home in Switzerland. 57.57.
Rico Peter on the left there.
Yeah. That is the second fastest run of the competition so far. Only Kaylee Humphries went quick in the first heat. Yes.
And she knows it was good.
Liz, you can vouch for that. You know, even if you don't see the time, you feel it, right?
You know it was a sweet run. She's going to feel that. She knows that. Coaches are stoked about it. And she's coming away with a European Champs medal with a shot to still move up.
Yeah, at least a bronze. I think that could move her significantly up the order. It's a really good run. And this tiny little runner check. There it is. Watch the runner tips. Just a little shimmy with the hands.
Happening, but...
And she'd be really pleased to have Nadia Pasternak back with her as well. The two of them get on so well together. So do these two. It's not necessarily about whether you're friends, it's just how you gel athletically that puts you together. And then if you get on together, so much the better. And certainly Kim Kilicki and Annabelle Gallander, they started the season with victory in Whistler, and they are looking for victory again. Well, Kim with 2 wins in North America. She also won in Park City with Leonie Fiebig behind her.
Both Kilicki and Nolta really need to clean up their runs from that first heat.
Kilicki, the reigning European champion, lies third after the first heat, 5:77, loses a couple of hundreds to the Swiss, so only 700ths of their lead remain. Ooh, again, we saw a bump there from 3 to 4 and 4 to 5.
5 to 6.
This is, for a German on a German track, this is a rattly run again.
Yeah, both runs.
Oh, hits that expansion joint.
Goodness.
And she'll be in red numbers. She's got the best speed, but she's having to work it hard through the Chrysler and nearly parks it. Oh, boy.
This is one she's going to want to forget.
Yeah. That is going to age Renee Spiess about another couple of months prematurely. 500s back. And she was not clean at the bottom. It's going to be bronze at least for Melanie Hassler. Yes! And that is at least a European silver medal. And Mel has not had a European medal so far in her career.
Just shaking her head.
Yeah.
Just like we said, you know when you have a sweet run, you also know when it's
When
not
it sucks.
well. Yeah.
Well, she took silver last week behind Lisa Bukvitz. With Lisa not starting, she perhaps might have been our favourite here, but look at that. That was 4 to
The
5.
skelly line there. Yeah, 4 to 5. Really so much height there. Then off of 9 just hangs a runner.
Yeah.
And then
It's okay, but that expansion joint, boing.
And getting both sides is really
Yeah.
unfortunate. Really getting high in there. Thankfully, she's got quite a bit of experience, like in Altenberg being a home track.
Yeah.
She could haul it off, but just barely.
Well, she was hanging it out for the speed, but it didn't quite work out for her. Melanie has the leads from Kim Kilicki and Andrea Grecu. 2 to go. Lara Nolter and Nayla Scooten won together a fortnight ago in Winterberg. Lara Nolter and Deborah Levy, the European champions in Winterberg in 2021. She was a European bronze medalist with Deborah last year. 5-7-0, solid start. She's attacking this. She wants to try and chase down Kaylee Humphries for the win, and that's a nice, neat run at the top of the track.
Definitely, but we started to see her problems after 4, so she's got to clean it up as well.
She bumps 4 and 5. 2800s up. This is her advantage over Melanie Hassler. She was 1900s behind Kaylee Humphries. That's clean. That's good.
Losing a little bit of time there, but I think she has enough for the bottom of the track.
Yeah, she's going to take the lead away from Melanie Hassler. Is this a challenge that Kaylee Humphries will be able to overcome on her favourite track? Not sure this is Lara's favourite track. It's not a home track for sure, Winterberg is, but as she comes across the line, little rattle there, 57.18. That is a huge second run. Her first heat was a 57.63. That's a monster improvement, and Kaylee's first, a 57.44. So Humphries needs to find about 0.4 of a second of an improvement to win this race.
Much, much better run than we saw in her first heat, especially that 14 area.
Yeah.
4 to 5, again, takes that bump that we've seen so many athletes struggling with today. Raising her brakeman, her bum's off the seat.
Yep.
Coming off of 9 here into that big straightaway, hangs a bit of a runner with a little bit extra pressure to the slider's right, but make sure that she doesn't tap the whole way down.
Well, none of Lara Nolter's 4 career gold medals in World Cup racing have come on this track. Is today the day that she breaks in another one? Kaylee Humphries and Keisha Love, the winners in Lake Placid this season. Kaylee, 7 wins in women's bobsled on this track. Did not win the second race last year or the first race this year. She took the bronze in the second of our 2 races in Altenberg last year, was not on the podium. She finished 4th last week, won the Monobob yesterday for the 2nd straight week here. Is this win number 8 for Kaylee Humphries?
She's got to lay it down to have a good run. This is a track that just works really well for Kaylee. She really, really likes it, and she's been wildly successful here.
Yeah. Little cleaner from 4 to 5. 1800s up, 1800s up. She is matching Lara Nolter blow for blow here. But has the BTC sled got the speed at the bottom? She stays away from the wall. Onto the Chrysler, she's as quick as Lara Nolter. Exactly the same speed. This is a great drive from Kaylee Humphries.
But this is exactly where Nolta started to speed away and run away with the race.
Yep.
So she's got to be perfect.
Down to 1100s. She's maintaining her lead into the final 3 corners. It could be in single digits. It's going to be very close. Humphries wins it by 2. What a drive from Kaylee Humphries. 200ths of a second. She sees the position on the gantry as you come up. It'll say 1 with the time. And the time is immaterial. It's the single digit that makes the difference. Kaylee Humphries, Keisha Love take their 2nd win of the season.
Made it interesting there at the bottom of the track.
Yes, she did. Sorry, not her 8th. That is her 7th win in women's bobsleigh here. And she has taken 2 in monobob as well over the last week. So Kaylee Humphries with Keisha Love, they won the first race here last year. They win the second race here this year. Well, boy, Elizabeth, 200ths of a second.
Yeah.
We've seen wins that narrow on a number of tracks before, but not so often here.
No, not generally on Altenberg or a driver's track. Usually on the shorter, more pushing related tracks. Yeah, we see ties, we see close races. But 200s here, really some good racing.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. That is close, but you'll take it. What a great drive from Kaylee Humphries. I mean, and you know, no disrespect to Lara Nolter. Boy, she put down an absolute smoker of a second heat, but the first was the one that let her down. Melanie Hassler is a bronze medalist ahead of Kim Kilicki, Andrea Greco, and Ying Qing of China. And that is, yeah, equaling her personal best, which Ying set on this track last week in the World Cup, a top 6 finish. Wai Mingming finishing in 8th. That's her best result here, tied for the 2nd week in a row. She has a top 4 finish in Sigulda from last season under her belt as well. And Martina Fontaneva did not go in the 2nd heat, with Lisa Bukvitz not starting today's race at all. So Kaylee Humphries is the winner, but Lara Nolter, for the 2nd time in 3 years, is our European champion. 2021 Winterberg with Deborah Levy. This year in Altenberg with Nayla Scooten. Lara Nolter, the gold medalist. Melanie Hassler, the European silver medalist, and Kim Kilicki takes the bronze ahead of Andrea Greco, with Victoria Chinanska and Georgeta Popescu in 5th and 6th in the Europeans.
A great result for Melanie Hassler heading home to Home World Championships as well.
Absolutely.
Especially after not sliding last week too. She's down a little bit in runs, but nailed it today.
But she's had a couple of extra days in St. Moritz, and that is going to help as well. She's going to be in very fine form now, I think, Melanie Hassler. So the European Championships, Lara Nolter's 2nd European Championship victory. And most recent German to do that was Mariama Yamanka in 17 and 19, both times with Annika Dratzek. So hi to Annie. Haven't seen her in the bobsled at the top level for a few seasons now, but no, she's still around and about training and sliding.
She's making a comeback is what I read, so we'll be looking forward to seeing her soon.
That's what we're here. So it'll be good to see how that works out. And again, Rene Spies will be spoilt with talent, as he is with driving talent in the men and the women's field. Kim Kilicki continues to lead the World Cup standings by, look, the massive margin of 5 whole points. And 5 behind Lara Nolter is Kaylee Humphries. 6 of 8 races in, 10 points cover the top 3 in the World Cup. Are you kidding me?
It's going to be a fight to the finish. Well, it's going to be exciting.
Essentially, whoever doesn't bother going to Innsbruck or Sigulda is not going to win the World Cup title. So I think we'll probably see all 3 of those athletes at the very least heading to the final races. But for the women, Altenberg is done and dusted. Pack your bags, grab your kebab and head up the Julia Pass to St. Moritz, where the World Championships await. We have one more race here to round out our speed fortnight in Altenberg, and that is the 4-man bobsleigh. Join Liz Varche, Liz Meyer, me, Martin Haven, and the IBSF TV crew at 2:30 local for the 4-man competition.